Well, welcome to our weekly webinar, and this is Patrick Halstead at Qdabra, and today we're talking about do we love InfoPath or not? That is the key question. Apparently some people don't really think it's worth a Valentine gift. We have some scaremongering people out there. How many people actually received this email? I'm going to do a quick poll here before we get started, and we have a okay, so we have some questions telling me that I did have a correct audio here. We're going to do a quick poll. Just bear with me here if I can actually do this. And I just canceled the poll here from my screen, so I'm going to try to share this out again here. Just one moment here while I try this this poll option. Okay, so we're going to select this poll here. I'm going to launch this guy and see how many people actually received this email from Mgage. I'm just kind of curious. We've had a couple people do some scaremongering this week, and I thought it might be kind of cool to see how many people. Okay, so looks like the majority of you did not get it. That's good news. Let's try the next one. We'll just close this poll. 96% responded, and we have 65% saying they did not receive it. The other 35 saying they did. Okay, so here's another. There's another post on InfoPath is dead on the LinkedIn group, Office 365. So let's see about this one. How many people got this one? Just curious. I know that there's a lot of people out there on LinkedIn, and so we got these two kind of scaremongering things this week. Thank you very much for responding. Less people, only 17% got that. So the answer is no. It's not going away. It's not dead. We just have a bunch of badly timed negative marketing campaigns. Why is that? Well, it turns out that Microsoft actually announced a new roadmap. I believe it was either Monday or last week. And their new roadmap actually had this editorial update to the Office blog for InfoPath. Now let's see how many people actually saw this. This is my last and final poll. And just launching this guy here to see how many people actually read this before this this webinar this morning. And it looks like we're about half and half, 65%. Okay, the no's are outnumbering the yeses, 71 to 20. Now we're at 74 to 26. So most of you did not see this, which is why you're here. Thank you for joining me. So what is this? Well, it turns out that Microsoft published this blog about a year ago, January 31st. We did some webinars talking about it. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch them. And we've been very close to Microsoft. Obviously, a large part of our business is still InfoPath, and we love InfoPath at Qdabra. So what they did was they published this out in January, and then they just updated it last week without telling us here that they updated it. They said editor's note, but without a date timestamp. How crazy is that? So basically what they're saying here, and you can read this, I don't have to read it for you, but InfoPath replacement, which they announced with great fanfare at last year's SharePoint conference, is officially canceled. And if you go to the roadmap.office.com site and you click on canceled, you'll see here that indeed we have two that are canceled, and one of them is Forms on SharePoint Lists. And if you click on more info, guess what happens? You go to the InfoPath blog. Okay, so that's what happened this week. Was I got a bunch of emails on Monday and Tuesday saying, hey, Patrick, everyone thinks InfoPath is dead. Well, we've heard this story before, and the story has a happy ending. InfoPath is not dead. In fact, they're shipping it again, and that was the announcement. If you read the fine text down below here, InfoPath Form Services is shipping again in SharePoint 2016. The sunset date for InfoPath has been pushed out 2 years, from 2023 to 2025, and the support in 365 is until further notice, whatever that means. So those are the key takeaways. So just to refresh people, we have some options for you. In fact, let me just see. There's somebody who's bugging me in the questions here. So Ivor Davies, thank you for posting that. Sorry, and I should probably call out that Vlad was the guy who did this. In fact, let me just go back to this. I have this open. I want to give some credit where it's due here, because let's see if I can just find this thing here. there was, okay, so there's basically this all things info, there's this SharePoint site, the SharePoint LinkedIn group, and Vlad, I can't pronounce his last name, but I want to thank this person for doing this great blog post, Vlad Katrinescu. I mean, this has really made my week. So, I mean, he actually saw this happen first, so he gets credit for blogging this. And so this is really the reason why we're doing the webinar today. We were planning to do a performance update and show you some more tricks. We're still working on those tricks. Of course, we're going to have those for you next week, hopefully, the browser tricks that we started talking about last week. We'll talk about more about performance next week. So we had a couple comments here. So thanks to Vlad and Ivor for posting those. And Bruce has a comment. Bruce, I'll get your comment in a second. I just want to finish this deck here. So current options, you can continue using InfoPath just fine. It's the best solution for forms today. And I'll talk about the 6 reasons why in a second. It's lowest cost because you already have it. And of course, your forms work. So everything's fine and dandy. Now, for those of you who are completely paranoid and want to do work just for no sake, you could actually start moving your data to SharePoint lists or SQL. And I'll do a quick demo of that in a second. We have a tool that will help you. And then for those who are really completely what's the word I want to use? Completely brainwashed by these negative campaigns, you could migrate to their technology, which of course is going to cost you money to migrate all those forms. It's also going to cost you license fees because they're not free, and they're not aligned with Microsoft. So eventually Microsoft will get its act together, right? And they'll have a story. Now we've been doing this a lot with our formsco.com site. We've got a solution matrix. We've been talking about this. We're going to update this site in a few months, hopefully in a few weeks, and give you more options. But we've listed a few of the options. There's lots of options out there for migrating if you really want to do that. But like I said, no reason to migrate right now. You can just continue using it. Now, if you do want to just take your data out and use lists some people, they want to extract the data for reporting. So not only do they want to try to migrate the data to a list for the long-term, the long-term life of it, the longevity of your forms data, but also for reporting. And there's a couple easy ways to do this, and I'm going to show you one real quick. In fact, I have a really simple form here with repeating data. So my form's name is called Forms with Repeating Data. So I've got this form published out to my SharePoint site, just 365 here, and let's see if I can find it. And this form is basically let me just create a new form here, and we'll put in some data here. So let's see here. We'll just put in some random data, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Can I actually do this? And I think that I am born in America here. Okay, and I'm going to hit submit. Now this is just going to submit the form back to the site, so I'll close it, and I'm not going to save it twice here. I should have put a close on that button. So very, very simple form with repeating data, right? And you can see that there's an option in InfoPath today to merge those columns, but that doesn't give you what you want. So if you see in my my form here, I've got promoter properties set to merge those columns. If I go to my promoter properties, this is 2010, but you can do this same as 2013. And you can see I've got this merge function here. And what that does is it merges all of the row data into that one column, which is not very useful. Why is it not very useful? Well, I can't. It's just one blob. It's not normalized. So I want to really map this to my generic list. And how do I do that? Well, we have a free tool that will allow you to do it. It's called a InfoPath SharePoint List tool. In fact, here it is, InfoPath the SharePoint List tool. So what you do is you define your mapping. So you basically install this. This is built into QRules. We are probably going to be making it available for a small fee starting in a week or two because we see a tremendous demand for this. So we're going to be breaking it out of QRules and actually charging enough money so that we can justify helping people. Typically people they want some help, and if we charge a couple $100 for it, then then it's easier to do that. So this tool actually we've been using for a long time. What you do is you attach your XSN on top here, and that's what I just did. I attached that form. Then what you do is you point it at your library, and you get the SharePoint lists. And then you can see there's the generic list. That's the only list I have on the site. So I select that list. I say that my data is from repeating. I map my data. So on the right here, you can see my schema for the InfoPath form. It's just the generic stuff. I didn't even name my fields correctly. So I just selected group 2. That's my repeater. And then I just mapped these my field 1, my field 2, my field 3 to these columns over here. And the columns automatically display because the tool queries SharePoint and gets the columns. So once you have the mapping defined, you could save it and put it in your form and update your form and have your form dynamically do it on submit. But I want to talk about a different technique today. I want to show you how you can just import that data. So let's say, for example, that we take that data that we had. Here's our data. We just saved this. We just saved this XML. So I'm going to download a copy to my local machine. And we'll just save it here in this root directory. Okay, and now I'm going to just attach that XML file to my tool, and I'm going to click import. It's that easy. And then you just go back to your SharePoint site, and let's see what happened. Okay, we've got our ABCDs. Now, so what we did there was we defined a mapping, we used this tool, and we uploaded the data. So this will help you migrate your data, and it's batch mode. So you're thinking to yourself, well, that's fine if it's just one file, but what about if I have a whole bunch? Not a problem. We just delete this guy, and then there's an option here to browse to your folder path. I'm just going to basically paste it in here because I don't, so I've got it right here actually. I've got 2 files in here. Actually, one's a duplicate from one I uploaded earlier. And we'll just blast it in here. So this is going to blast all 3 in, or all 2 from that library. So there's 2 in here, right? Let's go back to SharePoint and take a look. We should see the first 3 columns duplicate because I had that form in there already. And so you see the first 3 columns duplicate, and we got that 4th one there. So this tool allows you to batch update data. You can also take the mapping. You can save it as a mapping.xml file, and then you can include it in your form so your form can dynamically do it on submit. So this is a great way to map your data to the SharePoint list. The benefit, of course, being that you get reporting on the list using Excel. You can also have multiple lists, parent, child, grandchild, whatever. And then the other approach is to use another tool that we have to map your data to SQL. So we have a tool that allows you to do that, and that's more scalable. Instead of being limited to the 100,000 items or so in the list, you're limited to SQL. Now, the lists typically they'll default to 5,000 as the limit, but you can get around that if you're central admin. And if you're not a central admin, you can certainly index the columns. We have a lot of people talking about large lists, how to query them. You can query a large list. You know, if your InfoPath form is taking forever to open the list, all you have to do is index the column and make sure your query filter is set to set that field. Before you query it, don't query it on load, and then query the list, and you'll only see the rows that match that filter. We talked about that in last week's webinar, so go back to last week if you're interested. It's on YouTube, and you can hear about that technique. Okay, so once again, if you're migrating, you want to pick a technology that's going to match InfoPath's key features today. And the key features in InfoPath are the fact that you get a beautiful layout. So you get HTML, standard, beautiful layout. It's document, so it means that you can do workflow on it. It means you have a copy of record, and you want a form technology that allows you to do allows you to do rules, smart logic, validation, formatting, all without code. You want the thing to be mobile ready so that you can use it with your iPads and your Android tablets. You also want to rely on, you basically pick a company or a technology that's stable, that's reliable, and you want something that is low cost. So with all of those factors in mind, there's just 6 I've picked. InfoPath still has all 6. You could say that the mobile ready thing is like a half of a point. So it's 5.5, right? Because you can do this with IPFS. It's not that bad. You can actually even attach images to your InfoPath forms with the iPhone these days. but it's not 100% because you don't get caching and offline and things like that. Formotus, one of our partners, actually has a nice option there. So InfoPath plus Formotus gives you all 6, a great solution today. But InfoPath by itself, about 5.5 here. And there's nothing else that comes close. So you look at the other technologies out there in the matrix, and PDF share forms is 4, K2 is 4, Nintex is 4, maybe 4.5. They don't cover all these scenarios. Typically, they're not document-centric. PDF share forms is, but K2 is not. Or they don't support the rich client, or the company hasn't been around that long, or it's not low cost, right? So with all these factors in mind, InfoPath is still the best option today. Now you could look at our Forms Viewer tool, which is free, and we have this out there on our formsquo.com site. Forms Viewer is our suggestion. It's also a thing that you can install, and we're going to come out with 1.1 here shortly. We've been talking about it for a while. It's been delayed, but we're hoping to get it out in the next few weeks. This tool installs in 365 or 2013 Foundation, allows you to view and edit forms that have been created in InfoPath. It is not a designer. It's just an app that allows you to view and edit forms, so that if for whatever reason Microsoft stops supporting InfoPath in the cloud or in SharePoint, then you've got this backup. And that's really the point of it, was to be a backup. Now we're adding SOAP and REST queries to the tool this month, and in 1.2, which will be out in June timeframe. Actually, this is wrong. 1.1 is shipping this month. 1.2 is going to be out in June, and that will have support for web services and maybe rich text. We're looking at that. So without any further ado then, let's just jump to our questions. I'm sure you have some questions. We've had good participation today. I want to thank you all for coming. So yeah, Bruce has a comment. If you've got any questions whatsoever, now's a great time to throw them into the question well. There will be a short survey afterwards, and I'll send you these samples along with the tool. The tool that I just demoed that will help you map your data to the SharePoint list. I will package that all up into a zip for you if you answer 4 stupid questions at the end of the survey. So first question is from Altaf Zafar. Thank you, Altaf, for asking a question here. When is SharePoint 2006 likely to be released? Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I would say word on the street is summer time frame. Maybe it's going to coincide with the Ignite. There's an Ignite conference in May, a big one, Microsoft big conference. They're combining SharePoint conference and this other thing, calling it Ignite in Chicago. What are the new features? Well, for InfoPath, there's going to be some changes to the form services. So there will be some changes to essentially support workflow better. Very minor updates, so no features per se other than InfoPath. One of the reasons why Microsoft did this is that InfoPath is actually used for SharePoint workflows. It's still being used to edit workflows. So even in 2013, believe it or not. And so they thought it was easier to update InfoPath form services to support the workflow changes than to create some new thing. And that's one of the reasons why they're shipping InfoPath form services again. So the InfoPath 2013, the filler will work with 2016. Once again, InfoPath Form Services is shipping again. InfoPath filler is not. Filler, though, will work with 2016, and they're testing that. Yeah, and so Bruce has a comment here. Funny, I was at the SP Tech Con in Austin this week, and when an entire panel of top SharePoint experts were asked, what's replacing InfoPath or SharePoint? The only answer that made any sense was InfoPath. InfoPath is the replacement for InfoPath. No one else has come close to it. You're absolutely right. No one else has come close to replacing InfoPath, Bruce, and thank you for that wonderful comment. It's great to have you here. I love it when our customers come and join us. This is what this webinar is for you, and we're here to answer any questions you have and help you. Don't forget, we're here to help you. We're not here to sell you anything. We're your customer advocates. Anyway, Jania has a question. Does the mapping tool map data to a SharePoint library too? That's a great question. It should. Yeah, we should try that. Altaf has another comment. I agree. Tried several form designers, and InfoPath's the best. Yeah, I mean, there's some tricky things, and we've gone over in our webinar, where not to step. Make sure your data source is well defined. You've got organization, just like your file cabinet at home. You don't want a messy file cabinet. You don't want a messy main data source. That's the key takeaway. But there's some other things in InfoPath that are gotchas that you need to watch out for. But in general, it's a great tool. And there are millions of people in the U.S. using it. In fact, we estimate that there's over 25 million InfoPath form templates in production today. And that means it is not going away anytime soon. And that's just the U.S. And that's just based on Microsoft's numbers, actually, believe it or not. Of course, Excel and Word are much higher adoption. But InfoPath has been adopted by millions and millions of people and is in use. And the same is true in the UK. Thanks, Altaf. And it's great to have you here, another one of our customers. Anyway, if you need any help, we're here to help you. Like I said, everything is on YouTube. And once again, we've got these upcoming webinars. We're going to come back to the faster browser forms next week. We're going to show you how bad views and logic can cause your performance to go poof. So we want to help you there. We'll also talk about publishing once for many subsites. We have one of our customers has this great technique, and we've actually been doing it. We've done it a couple times, and he's I guess inspired me to put this on the webinar schedule. It's been on here for a couple weeks. It's going to happen, promise. And anyway, if you need any help or if you want to schedule some support, we have a link there. We'll be sending out the deck. I want to thank you again for joining me today. There will be a quick survey at the end. And one last comment from Altaf. The new SharePoint 2016 integration with InfoPath. So Altaf, I tried to respond to that. Basically, InfoPath will work with 2016. InfoPath 2013 will work with 2016. The form services is going to be updated in 2016. So there is an integration story there. So don't worry. Everything will work. You won't get InfoPath 2016 filler, but you will have an updated InfoPath form services on the server. And the filler will work from 2013. So hopefully that answered your question. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thanks again for joining me today. And I'll send out my package. Don't forget the survey. Talk to you later.